Viridian, the Green Guide, by Clouds, My Head in the Clouds Not Coming Down, read by Shadow 5. Chapter 17. Research. Summary. Izuku looks into online schools. Izuku had spent the entire day so far researching online schools when Mom was at work. She tried to stay home, but she'd had to leave early yesterday because Izuku was too useless to stay out of trouble, so Izuku wasn't about to make him miss work again, just so he wouldn't be alone. Thankfully, she'd listened when he pointed out that he wouldn't be doing anything besides sitting on the couch all day, which he didn't need 2 arms for anyway, and she'd left after she made him promise to keep the door locked. He was just happy that he wasn't holding her back. In any case, if he was able to transfer to online school, he'd have to get used to being home alone during the day, since Mom obviously couldn't afford to quit her job. There weren't that many online schools, and those that did exist were mostly some sort of mixed format where students still had to show up once a week. That would probably be better than going back to Eldera, since he would only have to deal with bullies occasionally rather than every day, but something told him Mom wouldn't see it that way. The whole point of him going to an online school was so that he wouldn't have to deal with having classmates, so if he still had to attend classes, even infrequently, Mom would worry about how he was being treated. Izuku hated it when Mom had to worry about him. She didn't deserve having a garbage son like him. She deserved a son she could be proud of, a son with a quirk. But that wasn't going to happen, so it was Izuku's responsibility to make sure she worried as little as possible. That meant that he couldn't just put up with weekly bullying, since Mom might not believe him if he lied and said his classmates were being nice. That left him to find a school that was entirely online. There were only 2 schools that did not require in-person attendance. One of them seemed almost like a traditional school, where students showed up in video chat classrooms at set times and turned in homework every day, just like Izuku was used to at Eldera. There were 2 problems with that school, however. The first was that it seemed to include group projects, which might lead to Izuku being left out at best and cyberbullied at worst. The second was that it only accepted new students at the beginning of the semester, which meant that Izuku would have to stay at Eldera for several months until he was able to transfer. He couldn't do that to Mom. That left Izuku with his final, and only, option. It apparently had options for everything from grade school until the end of high school, and was entirely remote. According to their website, Izuku would just read articles and watch lectures associated with each lesson, then take tests and do assignments to test his learning. He would be able to work at his own pace, so he wouldn't have to worry about how stupid he was. He could just go slower than average. He did have to complete each semester class within 6 months, but that sounded like something he could handle. And Mom wouldn't have to worry about him having classmates that would bully him. There was only one problem. He would have to pass an entrance exam. He could take it at any time, so he wouldn't have to worry about going back to Eldera while he waited for the new semester to start, but was Izuku really smart enough to pass? Kachan didn't even get straight A's, and he was so much smarter than Izuku. What if he took the test and didn't pass? Would he have to go back to Eldera? Mom would be so disappointed. He really was the worst son, wasn't he? He ignored the voice in his head that said that Eraserhead thought he was smart. Eraserhead had just been being polite when he saw Izuku's notebook. There was no way he actually thought Izuku was intelligent. But Eraser wasn't worried about being polite, so he could be telling the truth. Izuku shook his head. That was too confusing. It was just easier to firmly remind himself that he was an idiot, just like Kachan and his teachers always said, and leave it at that. That way he wouldn't get his hopes up. When he inevitably failed out at the entrance exam, it would still hurt and Mom would still be worried, but at least he would already be expecting it. It was for the best. Katsuki felt sick. The entire school was talking about how Deku got suspended. Boulders had been bragging about it all day, as had the other 2 extras that had been involved, so everyone already knew how Deku had been beat up so badly that the principal had to call Auntie Inko to come pick him up. Glow had said it was his idea to pin the whole thing on Deku, like he was proud of his creative thinking, and the principal had fallen for it, hook, line, and sinker. But Deku couldn't have started that fight. Katsuki knew that, Auntie Inko knew that, and the principal sure as hell knew that. So why had the school gone along with Glow's story? Deku was a quirkless weakling who couldn't even defend himself, so why would he start a fight with his classmates? Sure, those extras didn't have awesome quirks like Katsuki's, but the weak-ass quirks were better than nothing, and Deku had those stalker notebooks, and he obviously knew he couldn't win, and even he wasn't stupid enough to pick a fight, so what did the school get from blaming Deku? Well, those 3 extras who had beaten him up had gotten off scot-free. But it shouldn't matter to the school who got the punishment, right? They should be punishing those who were actually at fault, so that they knew they did something wrong. That's what heroes did, at least. They put the bad guys in prison so they wouldn't do anything bad in the future, even after they got out. Wasn't that the way things worked? If the principal was letting these guys get away with what they did, then who else had he let get with stuff? Were there villains out there who were out beating people up because the school hadn't done anything to stop them back when they went here? That was kinda messed up. It was a good thing that Katsuki knew better than to. Katsuki froze. How much had he gotten away with? He had already had to come to terms with the fact that he hadn't been acting like a hero, but he hadn't been acting like a villain, right? The teachers all knew he wanted to be a hero. They all told him he'd be a good one. They wouldn't just do nothing if he'd been acting like a villain, not when they all knew he was going to be the next #1. But he'd hurt Deku, and it was villains who hurt people. Not heroes, not civilians. Villains. Villains hurt people. He hurt people. He was a villain. Katsuki couldn't keep himself from exploding his pencil, but the only reprimand he got was a stern look from the teacher for interrupting class. Katsuki couldn't help but wonder what would have happened to Deku if he'd done something like that. Obviously not exploding his pencil, because he didn't have a quirk to do that, but if it'd been loud? He'd probably have gotten detention at the very least. Why had no one ever given him detention? The school hadn't even done anything when he told Deku to. Katsuki crushed the charred remainders of the pencil. The teachers heard those extras telling Deku to kill himself every damn day, but they still didn't do anything. How long had Katsuki been a villain without realizing it? He couldn't trust his teachers, not anymore. How was he supposed to be the best if they wouldn't even tell him what he was doing wrong? He had to be better. He had to change and actually act like a hero if he was ever going to be the best. And he was going to be the best. He was going to be the best hero, no matter what stupid challenges got in his way, no matter how much he had to change, no matter if the stupid teachers couldn't be bothered to do their fucking jobs. Katsuki was going to be the best. But how? Yun Hamazaki woke up chained to a table. Immediately, he started pulling at the chains and even tried cutting them with his claws, but without any trigger in the system, there was no way he'd be getting out. What happened? He'd been at the police station, then there had been alarms, and the detective had left alongside the hero who arrested him. Then another officer had come in and opened a tiny bottle with a single mechanical. He groaned. He knew the symbol of evil, whoever he was powerful enough to have some dirty cops on his side. He should have known that they wouldn't leave him in police custody. He knew too much. It probably didn't even matter that he'd said anything. They still would have dragged him back here anyway. Speaking of, where exactly was here? It would have been easier to just kill him, inject him with a poison rather than a sedative, but instead they'd kept him alive. Well, as long as this wasn't the place they did the experiments, he'd be fine. The door creaked open, and June craned his neck to try and get a better look at either the room or his visitor, but unfortunately, aside from a bright lamp over his head, the rest of the room was dark. There was some shuffling in the general direction of the door. Then he heard a high-pitched squeaking that set his teeth on edge, almost like someone had forgotten to add the wheels on one of those old metal wagons. The comparison wasn't too far off, apparently, because his visitor finally stepped into the light, pushing an old metal cart loaded with a variety of tools and bottles that June didn't want to know the uses of. His blood ran cold as he realized the man was wearing large round glasses and a lab coat. The doctor. The doctor took a voice recorder from his pocket and pressed a button. Phase 3, Experiment 2. Hypothesis. Through a combination of mutation and trigger, an elevated quirk level can be achieved even after the drug is out of their system. Please, don't do this. Jin didn't care that pulling at the chains hadn't worked before. He couldn't be turned into... It didn't matter if none of the others remembered the extra experimentation. He didn't want to... This couldn't be happening. The doctor didn't seem to care about his pleas, though, since he picked up the thick syringe off the cart and moved to stand over the table, the light reflecting off his thick round glasses so June couldn't see his eyes. Time of first injection, 8:24 p.m. Well, guys, that was chapter 17 of Viridian the Green Guide. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! And now you can hear how I find out how people talk. This was fun, this chapter. Oh shit, what's the doctor gonna sound like? He's a maniac, so... Phase 3, experiment to know... There's too much in the mic. Phase 3. Oh my gosh, no, that sounds like Minetta. Phase 3, experiment 2. Okay, I know what words I'm gonna use for Minetta then. If he's even in here, I don't actually know anymore. Phase 3, experiment 2. Das. German. Das. Aggressive German. Then that could work.